and welcome back to the Irish Tennis Updates podcast. My name is Adam, your host, and on the podcast this week, I'm talking to Garrett Barry, the National Performance Coordinator at Tennis Ireland. Garrett is here to talk all about the new National Performance Strategy that is ready to be implemented as soon as COVID restrictions allow. Over the course of the episode, you'll get to hear all about the new plan and the changes that it's going to bring in. A few points that will be mentioned include the new competition structures, the world tennis number, and international competitions. And that's just to mention a few. We do also touch a little bit on Garrett's journey, his journey in tennis and in coaching, and also some of the big influences he's had in tennis throughout his life. I really appreciate Garrett coming on and getting to hear all about this plan from him. So here we go. Let's get into this episode, and here is Garrett Barry. Firstly, Garrett, just a big thanks for coming on to talk. I'm looking forward to it. But how are things with you?
Yeah, things are okay, Adam, if not a little frustrating. We have a new strategy that we've had ready since last March. We haven't had an opportunity to roll it out, so we're very much looking forward to getting going with it. But look, personally, I'm very lucky, Adam. Where I live I live in a nice place. It's my kids have a good age that they're able to kind of get on with things. So yeah, look, we're very lucky, really. So I shouldn't really complain. But yeah, look, while it's frustrating, we're better than most. So
Yeah. I know you mentioned the plan, and we're going to come on to touch on that in some depth. But just before we do, just to get a little bit of a background on yourself and your kind of tennis journey, where did that all start for you in tennis?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Birr in Offaly. So contrary to what a lot of people think, I'm actually from Leinster. But I've been living in Connacht now for the last kind of 20, 21 years. I started off playing in Birr. I went to a tennis lesson actually, funnily enough, with a friend of mine who subsequently didn't end up playing tennis at all. But the minute I took the racket up and hit the ball, it just felt right. And coming from Offaly, where hurling at the time was a huge thing, playing tennis was probably a little bit, I suppose, a little bit abnormal. But yeah, it just felt right. And at the time, there was actually quite a decent tennis thing going on in Birr. There was actually 2 clubs in Birr for a population of about 4,000 people. So it was strange, but yeah, it was the reality. So there was a lot of opportunities to play when I was very young. But then coming up to like when I was about 12, 13, tennis really took a hit in Birr, and yeah, a lot of people stopped playing and got to the stage where I really didn't have anyone to play with. But I just kept going, kept kind of powering on, and was encouraged by a lot of people in the town to keep going. And yeah, just really enjoyed it. But yeah, early age played Leinster, was picked to participate in Leinster squads and stuff. And I played the junior circuit as a kid. Played all the tournaments during the summer, played in Fitz, played Interpro for Leinster under 14. Was very lucky to kind of scrape onto the Interpro team when I was under 14. And then played under 16 Interpro when it was about, and managed to again get on a Leinster team for that. The year they split Leinster into North Dublin, South Dublin, and rest of Leinster. So there was actually 6 teams in the Interpro that year. So yeah, I was, I suppose, lucky and unlucky, but just always loved the game.
Nice. And just to jump forward a bit, I know you did get into the coaching world after you left school and got involved in that. But how did you come to get involved in coaching in Connacht?
Yeah, the Connacht thing kind of came about. When I finished my coaching course, my first coaching course, which I did in Dunleary Community College, I did the tennis coaching and administration course that happened. I was the first year of it actually. Peter Farrell was the tutor on it, and it was a full PLC course in Dunleary Community College. So I just didn't know what I wanted to do after my leaving cert. Went and did that, loved it, and got involved. Then I knew Gary Cahill from playing as a kid, playing a lot in Mullingar, and Gary offered me a bit of work at weekends. Did a bit of work with him at weekends, then started working. When I went to college in Waterford. I did leisure management, which was a kind of a business studies course, with the leisure industry being at the forefront of the course. And at weekends, then again, I was working with Gary Cahill, and that brought myself and Gary to just eventually end up playing. We played in a tournament ourselves in Castlebar. And out of that tournament, he was offered a bit of work. He couldn't do it. He was busy at the time. And I ended up kind of starting to go at weekends, which brought me to kind of seeing that there was the potential of a full-time role in Castlebar, which I did for a number of years. I still live in Castlebar, so I'm still involved in the club a bit. And then I started working for Connacht, working as a performance coach in Connacht initially, then working as an RDO in Connacht for Tennis Ireland, and brought me to then taking on the role of performance coordinator for Tennis Ireland under Gary Cahill. So that was the kind of very brief journey to where I'm at the moment, but yeah.
So I guess I'm just interested, how did that then come about from working in Connacht as performance director to then be, I think 2019 when you started in Tennis Ireland as performance coordinator? So how did that kind of jump come about?
Yeah, so I was always very involved with the performance side of it. My passion is in performance tennis, always has been. I worked I was very lucky from day one, from when I landed in Castlebar. I was very lucky to land where there was a group of guys, actually. There was about 5 guys who were all, very good level, Connacht level at the time. Some of them knocking at the door of national level. And I just started working with them, and I suppose because I loved it so much, I kind of traveled a lot with them, went to a lot of tournaments, was kind of present at a lot of tournaments. I saw what was going on, and I suppose I got a bit of notoriety from that. That those guys all went on to be national level players. Some of them represented Ireland nationally. I suppose I got a lot of good experience as a at a young age. So I would have been regarded as a national, I suppose, as a coach of national level players. Then I worked, as I said, I worked for Connacht. Got the role as Connacht. I suppose it was RDO at the time. But was very much involved in the performance side of things when Gary Cahill started in the national centre. Started with the national program, which is a long time ago. So worked in Connacht for Gary as such, and then that morphed into a kind of a regional development officer job for Connacht under Gary still a little bit, more so Roger Garrity. So it was a really, I suppose it was a natural regional development job. So it was a lot more with the grassroots and a lot more with the regional development stuff. But while I was doing that, I still kept my hand in very much in the performance area, and still would have communicated with Gary and a lot of others on the performance area. Again, because performance has always been my passion. And then when there was a role advertised in 2017 as a national performance coordinator role, which was kind of working under Gary, linking the provinces into the national program. I thought it was a natural progression for me, so I went for the role. Subsequently, got the job and worked with Gary in that role for a couple of years, where we kind of developed it into trying to. I suppose the goal of it really was to get the provinces, to link the provinces better into the national program.
Yeah.
Kind of, and then I suppose then when Gary left in 2019, I was asked as the kind of, I suppose, the next person. I was asked to do Gary's role in the interim to try and keep things rolling. And then in October 2019, I suppose the role of National Performance Coordinator was just extended to the role I'm in currently. So it's not the same role as what Gary was doing, but it's I suppose the administrative side of it is. So.
Yeah, no, I know that in that role you've been kind of developing this performance strategy, performance plan. So just to kind of to jump into that, I guess would you mind giving a little intro and also then on the consultation process, kind of what you learned about the strategy doing that?
Sure. Yeah. So I think the process, I suppose, for me began in around November 2019. Where I think it was becoming clear that the board of Tennis Ireland were not happy with the direction the performance tennis was going. So a review of the performance area of Tennis Ireland was undertaken at that stage, and so the Tennis Ireland board hired a guy called Brian McNeice and his company Koitinos Consultants to conduct this review. So the review, as I said, began in November of that year, where myself and Brian worked very closely, and he consulted and interviewed a lot of people involved in tennis. A lot of people that would have been at the forefront of tennis. So the main stakeholders in the game. So he consulted, he talked to like pros, current and former pros, coaches of from performance players to recreational players to just people who have skin in the game, let's say, tournament organizers, and then Tennis Ireland staff, obviously. So like current staff and former staff. So people who had been involved in the performance area of the game as well were interviewed by Brian. Well, he did it in a number of ways. He interviewed them. He sent out questionnaires. So he got he had a lot of different people. So there was I think 50 plus people were consulted in the area of what they felt was needed to happen for performance tennis. So that was where it started initially. So then when we kind of got that together, we brought all that together. A new strategy was brought to the board of Tennis Ireland and to the branches of Tennis Ireland, so to the 4 branches. And we had We got initial kind of backing of the 4 branches and the board in or around February last year. So that was I suppose, the process and the consultation process. So I think then there was a number of areas that came out of that that were necessary, that were felt necessary to kind of bring forward. And I think that the key areas were facilities. Obviously we needed to improve on facilities nationally. We need a better competition structure. So more competitive opportunities. The competitive opportunities in the past were always very much based on Easter and summer, and a little bit around Christmas. But I think it became obvious that we need a better structure, a better tournament calendar, and also, the absolute huge necessity for a rating system as well was key. That was a massive one as well. But I think that just the general strategy then overall, how do we develop our players? How do we work with our players? What do we need to do to I suppose, build a stronger structure, a stronger kind of foundation for the program? So, I think initially we thought that from a let's say an on-court perspective, and from a national squad perspective, we felt that we wanted to try, and when it got down to it was very much down to the performance directors, so the provincial performance directors and myself. We then were tasked with trying to kind of to develop what was going to happen in the national setup. So our kind of initial thing was we wanted to give a free of charge national squad to a certain amount of players. That was our starting point. And I suppose as we went along, we realized that we weren't going to realistically be able to do that at the start. It just wasn't, we didn't have the structure in place to be able to do that. So we went back a step, and I suppose that's where we're kind of at the moment, Adam. We're trying to kind of, we're at that starting point, that kind of laying of foundations stage, where we hope to be able to start now. Like we've had a lot of starting points. We hope to start in the summer last year. We hope to start in September last year. Then January, like this month, we hope to start again. But it looks likely that we'll get started now again after Easter. So that kind of laying of foundations stage is going to be the first kind of 6 to 9 months, where we're going to make mistakes, we're going to have issues, we're going to have problems, but we're also going to hopefully be able to set out the vision for what we're trying to do, or what we're hoping to do with the overall program, which is the first 6 to 9 months. So I suppose bringing us up to the end of this year, the end of 2021. Again, if we can get started in or around Easter. So the first kind of 6 months we want to bring in the weekend competitions. So we want to make sure that we have a foundation of weekend competitions, more competitive opportunities for all players. So not just performance players, but it will obviously, it's in place for that kind of performance level. So there's a lot of opportunities for performance players to play at weekends. We really feel that one of the big things that came out of the strategy was that we were training all the time and not getting enough competitive opportunities at weekends for players. So we wanted to try and develop the idea of having all of the training happen during the week, or the majority of the training happen during the week, and then competitions at weekends, like every other sport that's successful in the country, like every other country in the world in terms of tennis. They have competitions at weekends. So we wanted to try and provide that opportunity. We also wanted to kind of have a bigger presence of coaches at tournaments to try and, I suppose, obviously coaches need their weekends as well to coach. There's a lot of, a lot of coaches will have a lot of their bread and butter at the weekends. A lot of their main coaching program happens at the weekends, and that will continue, I'm sure. But that doesn't have to continue for everybody. We can, the performance players really will have more opportunities at weekends. And while, we also feel that the coaches need to get out and watch the players play. We need them to see their players compete. That's where they learn the most about what their player can do. You're not going to learn, even if you and I play, a match on a court and a coach is watching us. in a practice situation, that coach is going to see, he's going to see some things, he or she is going to see some things that are going to be beneficial to us or going to be helpful to us. But they'll see a lot more if you and I are playing in the quarterfinal of a tournament, of an open tournament, where there's a huge amount more at stake. And that's what we feel, again, the presence of coaches at these competitions is going to be vital for I suppose, our learning, for coaches to learn more about their players. We also want to develop, we're using that first laying foundation stage to develop a red, orange and green tour. And so an under 10 tour, let's say. I think Leinster have done a very good job in the past in terms of their competitions for those ages. But we want to branch that out nationally. We have, all of the provinces have tried to have a tour for their players. But I think we need to link that all into the TI tour that's actually happening now, that James Cooney has developed through the competitions branch of James being the competitions manager of Tennis Ireland. So there's a Tennis Ireland tour, which you're probably familiar with now, which has, it mirrors what they do on the international tour. So we have Tour 1000, Tour 500, Tour 250. But we also want to use that TI tour idea to have a red, orange, green tour. So for the younger kids. So again, giving us opportunities, giving players more opportunities to play in competitive situations. We also have, we're putting together a menu of player supports that we are trying to kind of put out there. So things that we can kind of offer that Tennis Ireland can help with: regular hitters, a selection of regular hitters that players can call on, that they can practice with during the week. We're looking at the whole international trips, opportunities for players to play more internationally, but also more international tournaments in Ireland. So, this year we had planned to up our amount of ITF tournaments in Ireland, held in Ireland, to 5, which would be a big jump from 3. We also have 2 Tennis Europes. Usually we were going to bring that up to 3, but we hope to in the coming years bring that up to 6 ITFs and 6 Tennis Europes, which again allows Irish players more opportunities to play internationally in their own country. And it's proven in the past that even at that senior level, when there's tournaments on in our country, we have we've good success with our Irish players, with Georgia Drummy winning the Irish Open 2019, with Pete Bothwell winning the Irish Open men's, with Simon Carr having great results, James McGee having great results in the past, Sinead Lohan having great results in the past. So on Irish soil, we do very well in our tournaments. Also our Tennis Europes and ITFs, our Irish players have done very well in. So, the more we can provide of those tournaments in Ireland, the better. And we're going to host a webinar in the coming months. Obviously, when nobody can do anything else, we're going to host a webinar for any coaches who would be interested in running those events. So 2 of our current performance directors, Cian Blake in Munster and John McGahan in Leinster, have run ITF junior events in their clubs. So Cian has run one in Carrigaline, and John has run a couple of years in Dundalk. So they're going to kind of give the to-dos, the do's and don'ts of how to run these tournaments. And I suppose to take away the stigma of, oh God, it's an international tournament, it must be very difficult to run. So the lads are going to do a kind of a webinar to help coaches, I suppose, help them with maybe running more tournaments in Ireland. So that's a big plan of ours to do that. Other player supports to try and give more opportunities for players to play in the national centre and in their clubs. So to encourage their clubs to help them out on the basis of, maybe free membership or other, again, hitter availability and stuff like that. So I suppose we're trying to we have a menu of supports that we're trying to put out there. And I think we'll talk a little bit about the Team Ireland thing later on, but we're also looking at a Team Ireland Junior. So a possibility of having a Team Ireland Junior with all of those supports available for junior players. So the first stage of it is the first 6 to 9 months laying foundations of the new strategy. And that's going to be, I think it's probably going to take us up realistically, Adam, to the end of this year.
Yeah. And there's a lot you said there that I want to touch on, and a few other things as well, just to get into, and I guess get some specifics on. But just to start off, I guess you mentioned a lot of competition and increasing those opportunities for people. And I know that a way you're planning to do that is through these 6-week blocks that'll be held throughout the year. So would you mind, I guess, just giving me a little bit of the specifics of how those are going to work for players?
Okay, so in August of last year, August of 2020, I sent out a letter to parents, players, clubs, coaches, giving some information on the path that we're looking to take with tennis, with performance tennis in Ireland. And in that, I kind of explained the 6-week block, the 6-week blocks, which were kind of weeks 1 to 4, then week 5 specifically, and then week 6 specifically. Now, that has kind of changed a little bit. That 6-week block is still there, but the first 4 weeks are now going to be the first 5 weeks. And the reason for that is that initially we had the 6-week block. The first 4 weeks were just going to be competition for performance players, pretty much performance players only. So we were only going to be able to do it for top 16 players as such in each age group, run competitions in indoor venues nationally. And then on the 5th week, we would run a tour weekend. So the tour weekend would be competition for all levels, all ages, all around the country. So provision of, let's say, a grade 1 in 2 provinces out of 4, a grade 2 in the other 2 provinces out of 4, and a grade 3 event in all 4 provinces. So it would be a huge opportunity for all players of all levels, and then maybe even, you know, Phoenix type or Rogie type events in provinces as well where necessary. So that 5th week now, that first 4 weeks running into the 5th week has changed, because we have now, working with James Cooney and Kathy Hannon in the competitions department, we're now going to be able to offer points for those weekends, for all of the weekends. So from weeks 1 to 5, we're going to have normal points scoring, you know, like the Tour 1000, Tour 500, Tour 250s, Tour 100s are all going to be on every weekend. So we're trying to now provide tournaments again for all levels, tour weekend type stuff every weekend. So now there won't be every age group every weekend, but we'll provide at least 2, or we're looking to provide at least 2 age groups each weekend, where we will have, where we're at the moment, we're appealing to clubs all over the country to run these events. Now, you know, you may say, or people may say, oh, well, oh God, the weather, can't play tournaments outside in this weather and da-da-da-da-da. But there's coaching programs happening all over the country on weekends, outdoor. So if there's coaching programs happening, there's competition happening within those programs. There's points being played. And you know, it's the reality of the situation in Ireland. So we feel that we would, again, in line with the overall strategy, we want to have those competitive opportunities for everybody. And now we've got, with the, as I said, with the help of James Cooney and his team, we're now going to be able to provide, or we're looking to provide tournaments on weekends of all levels. So that means that those 5 weeks now, it's the first 5 weeks of a 6-week block. Okay. The 6th week then is where all of the players in all of the provinces will come together. All of the players in our let's say emerging programs, our next generation programs, which were our provincial programs before. So our Connacht, Leinster, Munster and Ulster squads. Those players now will be invited into national camps on that 6th weekend, where they will come together. So let's say squads of similar levels from the different provinces will come together. The players will get to see players in other provinces, how they're getting on, and they will come together and practice together and train together, where the coaches will also get to come together and collaborate and work together and talk to each other about what's going to happen in the coming 6-week block, where the players need to go, where the programs need to go, and so on and so forth. So that 6th week is going to be vital for the starting for the next 6-week block. So it's a kind of a continuous 6-week block, reevaluate, review, and then start the next 6-week block. And that's the way we're kind of trying to run the overall program going forward.
Very good. And just another brief note on that is, I believe that for a lot of those competitions, there'll be kind of a multi-match format. So you're not going to turn up and play one match and lose, 1-2 or whatever, and then be going home. But you will have the chance to play a few matches in each event. Is that right?
Okay, so yeah, thanks for asking that question, Adam, because I should have said it in my spiel, basically. Regarding the multi-match thing, we want to just get away in competition in general from the idea or the what was in the past of just a child arriving at a tournament, maybe getting an unlucky draw and ending up playing one match and going home again. So we want to just completely avoid that in the future. And all of the events that we are planning are going to be multi-match. They're going to have a minimum of 3, if not 4 matches every weekend. We're also looking at a variety of formats. So there'll be fast 4, there'll be champs tiebreak third set. There will be maybe no ad rule for a lot of these events. But I suppose the overall idea is to just get as many players playing as many matches as possible. And also, I suppose with that as well, Adam, there's going to be, with the start of the World Tennis Number, that will also bring a lot of opportunities for players to get more competition, but also to get competition at the right level where an under 14 girl could end up playing a 40-year-old man if their World Tennis Number is the same. So I think the World Tennis Number is going to be a bit of a game changer in that sense as well. So yeah, just moving away from the whole idea of one match or knockout or whatever, and it's all going to be a multi-match. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on that World Tennis Number that you mentioned, I know that's something that's coming in, and as you said, it'll be kind of independent of age and gender for the competition. How frequently will tournaments be using that structure, and how will that be used within the competition structure?
Yeah, I think the UTR has done this a lot in the States in particular, in America in particular, where they have UTR competitions. I think in Ireland it'll be used. It'll be recorded every time a tournament is on. So the World Tennis Number, your World Tennis Number will go up and down according to your results, as it would for a UTR. In terms of World Tennis Number tournaments, I think there will be a number of World Tennis tournaments, designated World Tennis Number tournaments, that will include players of all ages in them. So there's a really good one that happens in Connacht, for instance. It's the Connacht Singles League, basically. They've run it for the past about 4 or 5 years, where you have this situation. You have 13, 14-year-old boys, girls playing against 40, 50-year-old men and women in a competition where they have a league, where they have a round robin part of the tournament, and then they have a knockout part of the tournament. And it works really well. And I think the key to any of these, any World Tennis Number or anything graded like this, any tournament that's graded, is that the people who are playing in the tournament, that they just know in advance that that's the case. That they could end up playing a younger player. Once they're happy with that, I don't think there's any issue. And I don't think there hasn't been any issue in Connacht, certainly, with that tournament. And you enter the tournament in the knowledge that you could end up, from my point of view as a 44-year-old man, I could end up playing a 14-year-old boy. So if I can take it on the chin that 14-year-old boy might beat me, then fair enough, I play. If I'm not going to be able to do that, if I'm not going to be able to live with that, well, then I don't play. I think that's the premise of it. And I just think in Ireland, because there's so few, at every level, for juniors, for adults, there's so few players of similar level in an age group that I think the World Tennis Number will help that so much, to give so many more competitive opportunities at the right level for players.
Absolutely. And I guess another place where that is a little bit visible is within the leagues, like your summer league, your winter league, is when you are going to be, like, if you're first year, like I would have been my first year playing leagues, I've been 14 and I'm playing against people in their 50s, their 60s, whatever, and getting that experience, which I guess is what this is going to allow people to do on an even more regular basis. So I mean, I think it is a great thing to be bringing in even more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And just on competition, to move on to a slightly different topic, you've touched on kind of the holding the international events and the ITFs and the Tennis Europes, having them here in Ireland, and the advantages of that for our players. I guess a similar topic, well, almost the opposite topic, I guess, is this idea of getting or giving players a chance to travel a bit and to compete abroad as well. And I guess there being a bit of an emphasis around 15, 16 when people are in transition year of there being a bit of a chance to do that. So just explain to me a little bit about how that's going to look and those opportunities for people.
Okay, so we have currently on our team, let's say on our performance team, we have Carlos Miranda is from Spain. We have Dan Arimia, who's from Romania. We also have a few Irish guys, but we have all of the coaches or all of the performance directors have good contacts in countries abroad. So Dan has particularly good contacts in Romania, in his home city, a place called Iași, where they're currently building a new regional center for Romania in that city. And Dan, I've been over there with him in the past. Dan has a really good contact in Iași. He knows the people personally who are running that region. So that's one place that we will have a partnership and we have a collaboration with. Carlos Miranda has played underage for Spain. He's the Ulster performance director, and Carlos has loads and loads of contacts in Spain in different academies and so on and so forth. Cian Blake is in Munster. Cian has a guy called Gianmarco. Gianmarco is an Italian coach who has just started with Cian since September. And Gianmarco has worked for the Italian Federation. And again, with his contacts, we're looking to get over there. We have John McGahan in Leinster. John has, I think you know, he's part of a podcast as well. He's got connection with Dan Kiernan in Soto tennis. So John has lots of contacts as well. And again, we've established some other really, really good contacts with in particular with the Rafa Nadal Academy through Tennis Ireland coach Edel Clark. Edel is a representative for the Nadal Academy, and I've been working very closely with her. Myself and Paul O'Sullivan, our commercial manager, have been working very closely with Edel on a collaboration with the Nadal Academy, which is very real. They are very, very keen to be associated with Tennis Ireland, and obviously we're very keen to be involved with the Nadal Academy. With the name, with Rafa Nadal name, is just an incredible opportunity for us. We had planned to, in August, have 4 of their coaches, of the Nadal coaches, come over to meet with us and to work with our coaches and our players in DCU back in August. Obviously, COVID hit that. We then had another plan to have them to do a web link with them at the end of August, and we then couldn't have a gathering, so that was hit again. So we're eagerly waiting for the opportunity to have that collaboration and to have that discussion with the Nadal Academy and with their coaches. And again, once we get out of COVID, we will have that. But getting back to the TY thing, we are, with all of those different collaborations and contacts, we're going to be encouraging parents and players to in that transition year, to use the opportunity to travel to a country for a number of months, for a semester or for a year or whatever, and using our contacts to be able to do that on a hopefully cost-effective way, and to get the experience of being away from home, to figure out whether that being away from home is for them, to experience training with a team, to experience traveling with a team of coaches to tournaments. And I think those opportunities, I think players need to get those opportunities and need to experience those opportunities to really realize whether they want to explore then our next part of the pathway, which is the college route, which we really want to get players to go on the college route. So all of those opportunities are very, very important, we feel, to prepare players for that college route and eventually for the pro circuit, which some players after the college route, after going to college, may end up being pro players. I think our best players in the last 15 years or so have all gone through the college route in some way, shape or form. And we feel that education, Irish players, Irish people in general, look on education as a huge part of their journey. And I think the education piece is huge for us. We feel that education and tennis through education, I think, is so important for our new strategy.
For sure, yeah, for sure. And just on that, what you're saying, obviously, about the TY, like, I know that having spoken to certain people who have had good success recently, that the TY is a chance for a lot of people that they would have taken to train more, to travel more, and, like, as you're saying, to get that exposure to tennis. And I guess it's great that you can have that a bit, formally kind of in a plan, and have that as something that is, maybe more easily available to people than it would have been in the past.
Sure.
And what you're saying, it moves on nicely just to touch on college and goes to the US college as a route. And I know that you have a bit of a partnership with Mark Finnegan of All Sports Recruitment, who works a lot with US college routes, which I guess is great for you as well. So I guess, what do you see as the motivations for that partnership? And I guess you've touched on some of the advantages already for college as a route as well for players.
Yeah, we're very excited about the relationship that we have with Mark Finnegan. He has a lot of experience as a player. He was on your podcast. He has experience as a player and a coach in the college system. And we thought that a collaboration or partnership with someone someone in the college system would be a very, very important thing for us to have in our armory, let's say, in Tennis Ireland, because of, we need someone with that experience. We need someone to bring us or to help us on that route. We feel the college is an extremely important part, I've already said, and having Mark's expertise, in trying to, I suppose, find the best fit for Irish players in that college system, both in education and in tennis. And I think that's what Mark does really, really well. I've experienced it personally with some of the players that I worked with in the past. Shauna Heffernan, who, he's got a really good fit for her in a college in the States, in Boise State, and other players that have come through the Connacht system, let's say, and just from knowing what he's done for other players in nationally as well. I think he's been a huge part of that, and we just thought it was a no-brainer that Mark would be the right person for us to connect with on this. And already we've made good inroads into what we can do. And in the coming months, parents and players and coaches will get an opportunity through webinars with us, through provincial webinars with us and Mark, to see really firsthand what he does and how he does it. So I think, the best way to experience that level for Irish players, or the level of tennis that is out there, is through the college route. And I think that's been proven. So hopefully that will be a very successful partnership. We feel it will be.
Absolutely. No, I definitely think that's a great thing to have and to have going forward. And just to move on a little bit, slightly different topic. I know that as part of the plan that you have, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier on as well, but you have kind of new structures in place for squads, so kind of regional level, provincial level, national level. So I guess, would you mind just going through a little bit of how that's going to look, like what changes are being made to that structure?
Yeah, so I suppose, as I said, the original plan was to try and have a national squad, but a national squad with free of charge for players, with a free of charge element for players. Now, having looked at all of that and having really researched it and tried, looking, I suppose, crunching the numbers, at the moment, that's not possible. So we really have to go back to that foundation, that laying of foundations. So we're looking at all of the provincial programs as being the key here. So the starting point. So for the first 6 to 9 months, we're trying to, I suppose, solidify those foundations, get those regional provincial squads up to a level that we feel we can start producing players. I think a huge part of that is going to be the performance director's role, the role of that performance director. I mentioned a little bit about who they are. So we have a performance director in each province. We have Parlis Miranda in the north. We have Cian Blake in Munster. We have John McGahan in Leinster, and we have Daniel Arimia in Connacht. Their role is going to be an overseeing of that of those provincial programs, and working within those provincial programs to benchmark and to keep the level of those programs as high as possible. I suppose we're very excited to have, with the people that we have, the coaches that are involved in those programs at the moment. So we have former pro players like Pete Bothwell and Sam Bothwell working in the north now. Carlos has brought them into the program up there. In Leinster, we have a huge array of very, very experienced coaches working. Too many to go through the names of, but there's a huge amount of experience there. In Munster, I mentioned Gianmarco, the new Italian guy, but we also have the likes of Paul Fitzgerald, who was on your podcast as well. So Paul Fitzgerald and the likes, but we also have other, a huge amount of other experience in Munster. And in Connacht, we have Dan Arimia, who is new to the scene, but also Alan McCormack working in the program. But we also have physical trainers, and again, the role of that performance director in those provinces is going to be key. And one of their major roles is to go to the clubs and go to the areas of their province and work with the coaches, the key coaches and clubs in their province. And they have a kind of a set way of a set plan for each visit. So each visit includes, let's say, in the morning, working with the coach or coaches of the area, bringing them up to speed with with the plan going forward, with what they would like to see those coaches working towards in their area. And working with let's say the head coach or the main coach of the area themselves, and sitting down with that coach and working through the plan and linking it into the national program. Then in the afternoon, going on court with the best players of that region, of that area, with the head coach in the province or of the area, and working with the players and seeing firsthand what those players are working on during those weeks. And then in the evening, they would either have a meeting with the parents of the players in the area to help to talk to them about what's coming up, what's happening nationally, where the pathway is leading to, or the committees, the other main stakeholders in the area. So the committees, the club committees, and informing those club committees of what's happening with the performance program in the area. Another major part of that is collaboration. Another major part for the performance directors is collaborating with the regional development officers of their province. So for like John McGahan to be working with Peter Farrell, for instance, on the different programs, because there's such a link, there's such an overlap between performance programs and recreational programs and outreach programs and schools programs and so on. So those links need to become really strong between the performance area and the other areas. So that role of the performance director is so key to that foundation laying time in our new strategy. And we kind of see that first 6 to 9 months, probably Adam, bringing us towards the end of this year, is going to be key in that. And we would have liked to have been in the situation where we're in the kind of second level at this stage, where we're looking at the building stage as opposed to the foundation laying stage. We would have hoped to have been there at this stage, but obviously COVID hasn't allowed that. So that first 6 to 9 months is going to be key for the performance directors and myself and the coaches, and buy-in from all of the stakeholders that we need to move this thing forward. We need to change what we've been doing, and we need to put structures in place before we can really build, which is let's say January 2022, where we'll try and build. We'll do a review again of what's happening, and hopefully we'll be able to review something. Hopefully COVID will allow us to review something, and then build towards the next 6 months. So the first 6 months of 2022, where we hope to kind of tighten up on all of the areas, make our squads smaller, make our programs more, let's say, performance based, where we're not, I suppose in the first 6 to 9 months, we're reaching out to a bigger number of people who maybe haven't been reached out to before. So we get to, there's a bigger grab, there's a bigger, I suppose, area to identify future prospects in the game that maybe weren't seen before. So then to tighten up on that early 2022, and to maybe get closer to having that national free of charge program, which we hope to then, towards the end of 2022, be able to have that system, where I think anyone who would kind of really sit down and think about it, I think to have a national squad, a future national squad, I think the key to having a national squad is being able to offer that national squad free of charge. That the best of the best players, whether they're wealthy or not, whether they can afford it or not, obviously, that they can manage to do that program, and we can get the very best talent. And I don't really like using the word talent, but the very best, the players with the best will, the best eagerness to get to that next level are identified, and that money is not a reason for them not being able to do it, or where they live is not being a reason for them not to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one of the key areas as well that we're dealing with in this first stage is facility development. And facility development is facility and court surface. Facilities are vital to the moving forward of any program, as you know. And the amount of omni courts we have around the country is obviously detrimental to the prospects that we have moving forward in our game. However, there is good news with that, and we're resurfacing our clay courts in the National Centre very soon. Clubs like Galway have been really forward looking at the moment. They have they have 3 new clay courts already down. Belfast Boat Club have 3 clay courts down. And there's loads of clubs around Dublin who are putting courts down. Naas have their courts, their clay courts are artificial clay as well. So clay courts, number one, getting more clay and hard courts down around the country. And also, I think, and maybe even more importantly, is getting bubbles up. We need bubbles to get up, and I think in a place like Munster, or in a province like Munster, to not have any indoor courts is incredible in this day and age. However, I do think that we have some prospects in Munster coming forward. We've been working on that a lot. Cian Blake and I have been working on a number of different ventures. The Munster branch have been working on a number of different ventures, and there is good news on the way with indoor courts in Munster. And I think once we get a bubble or a number of bubbles up in Munster, I think lots of places will follow suit. So hopefully the province of Munster will be, watch this space, as the fella says, the province of Munster will have indoor courts very soon.
Yeah. And just on that, to bring you back briefly to what you were saying about, I guess, the club visits by the provincial directors. I guess that's going to be a good way to build, I suppose, relationships between the provincial directors themselves and regional coaches and club coaches, and having that structure, I guess, kind of a nice flow in it of everyone knowing who they all are and how they all work and what they all do and how they all fit into the system.
Absolutely, Adam, and I think it's something that maybe has been missed over the last number of years. I've been a culprit of it. There's been we've missed that collaboration, that collaborative feel between coaches at all the different levels. I think recently you had David Wilson on your podcast, and he mentioned the 3 C's and collaboration being a huge part of that. I think collaboration is key is the key moving forward for this new strategy. We need to recognize the coaches that have started with players, the coaches that have brought players in the door, that have helped the players gain the love for the game. And I think it's so evident in players when you see them on court, when they've been brought to a trial for a squad, or when you see them play a match or whatever. It's so evident the grounding that they've got from their original coach, and the love that they've got from the game because of that original coach. I think it's vitally important, and I think for us to realize and to recognize and to give the credit to those coaches is so important. And then to build, they know the players best. I don't know a player who's from Greystones Tennis Club. I don't know the 6, 7, 8-year-olds that's coming through. I don't know them personally, and I don't know where they've started. And I think we need to recognize that far more. Those club visits are vital to that, and I completely agree with you. Vital to there's often been a situation where you have, a talent ID, and again, I don't like using that word talent, but a talent identification day. Talent identification can be done through watching players play competition. That's where you see the tough kids who are the little girl from Bray who goes to a tournament and hasn't really maybe got the technical attributes or the whatever, but you see them fight. You see the that kind of fire in their eyes, and you see that they really love the game, and they're learning by even playing that match. And if we can get more of that, that's what we need to see. And again, technique is only one part of the game. We need to look at those other areas, that the will, that complete player where they just love the game, and they'll do anything in their power to get themselves better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's another key that I guess is be exciting to follow the progress of over the next while. Just another point to touch on is that you touched briefly on earlier on Team Ireland funding. So a way to fund players, and you mentioned a junior one. So I guess just talk me through a little bit Team Ireland funding, how the junior one fits in, and how that's going to look.
Okay, so Team Ireland is we kind of took it from the GUI, from golf. They have a Team Ireland funding stream, let's say, that they have for their players. So players have certain benchmarks that they have to achieve in order to get either financial or non-financial funding. The financial funding, the benchmarks are pretty high. Okay, I'm going to say it straight out, they're pretty high. However, we need people to have something to aim at. Last year in 2020, we funded 3 players. So we funded a wheelchair athlete and 2 able-bodied. So those players were funded. The funding is not huge. It's not. We don't have a huge amount of money to give to these areas, Adam, to be honest. But at least players now will see that if they gain a certain level, they get to that benchmark, that the criteria is there for them to actually achieve certain funding. Other non-financial things that we're trying to provide are the likes of free access to the National Centre. We use Daniel Glancy for 6 hours a week. Daniel has been helping some of the pro players. We have him 6 hours a week. He's contracted to us for 6 hours a week, and we're going to extend that in this year when we get back. We're going to extend that to prospective college players. So that's a new element to Team Ireland program that we're going to add. And I did mention, we're looking at a Team Ireland Junior as well. So again, a list or a menu of supports that we can offer to junior players. Again, I'll be straight with you, Adam. We don't have a huge amount of money to put towards any of these things, but we are trying to make whatever money we have go as far as we can have it go. And the more positive sides of that, what we're trying to use our money for, we are entering teams in all of the international team competitions. So we have obviously a Davis and Fed Cup team. We're going to continue with that. We will enter teams in the Winter and Summer Cups, in the European Championships. We've supported the Masters U, the college, international college team event. And we're going to continue to do that 2021 and going forward. So they're the things that we're going to support. They're the things that we can support. And we just want, I suppose, the collaboration between the 4 provinces and the understanding of that criteria, the understanding of where we're at needs to be stronger. And I think that's what we want to be, as criteria-based and transparent as possible moving forward.
Absolutely. Now, I just want to ask Garrett if there's any other kind of key things you think that we should touch on that we haven't so far. Any other points here you'd like to make?
I think we've covered a lot of the areas, Adam. I think what I would like to say to coaches, parents, players, enthusiasts, tennis enthusiasts in general, is just there's a performance director in each province who has a phone number and an email. And if you have any questions, comments, anything you think could help, anyone that would like to, maybe offer some sponsorship or even talk about sponsorship, and we have a commercial manager in sport in Tennis Ireland as well. Anybody in the game that would like to reach out to us, to give us any advice, we're very open. We want to talk to people. We want to get out there. We want to get the information in that may help. And we want to try and, clear up as many areas as we can for you guys as well. So, my number, my email, and the 4 provincial performance directors' emails and numbers are all widely available. We would love for people to reach out. We would love for anyone who would like to help, who thinks they can help. We need help. We know one thing for certain, Adam, that we don't know everything. We haven't got all the answers, and we won't have all the answers. We're going to make mistakes. That's why we're calling that first stage the foundation, the laying of foundations, that between now and the end of this year, I would imagine, And the only time we can lay foundations is when we get an opportunity to actually get out there and do this, and to get out there and actually have a go, because we haven't had an opportunity to have a go. We tried to kind of do a little bit between September and, it was probably between August and October, where there was that little bit of a window last year, but we really didn't get a proper opportunity. We want to launch this thing properly. We want to get out there. We want to show what we're willing to do, what we're able to do. But we also want to be realistic. And that's what I think. We've changed the whole, we've repositioned ourselves as performance development as opposed to high performance. We need to look at the whole developing performance players, starting again, restructuring the whole program. And that's where we're at. And, anyone who feels or believes that they can give us any help or any aid in any of those areas, please reach out. We're open. We're open to talk.
Absolutely, it's really good. And obviously, I would encourage anyone listening to get in touch, and I'll leave some details in the description down below, just so anyone can get in touch as easy as possible. And obviously, just wish you all the best. I know it's been a difficult start to the plan, and it hasn't been ideal, but I hope that picks up and everything goes as well as possible over the coming, this year and beyond as well. So just all the best for that, and
Thanks,
and yeah, encourage people to get in touch. Now just before Garrett, just before I let you go, to ask you on a big an experience or influence you've had in tennis that kind of stands with you and that you remember maybe from years ago.
Yeah, I think my biggest influence, I've had a lot of influences in terms of coaching, in terms of my own my own career. Career sounds very, but career in general, like from being a player, from coaches that I had as a player, to coaches myself and people who have influenced me. In Ireland, a lot of my influences would have been Dave Miley, originally as a player. Tig Lamb was my coach from when I was kind of 11 to when I was about 14, 15. And then as a coach in Ireland, Gary Cahill, obviously I worked with Gary a huge amount over the years, and then other people like Jim Watt, and then like influences more recently, like people who I work with, Stephen Nugent, who I worked with as he was the performance director in Leinster, Alan Beattie, who from a recreational and club development level, Alan Beattie is a huge influence of mine. I think he's a fantastic role model coach. And then the performance directors that I have working with me at the moment, Carlos and Cian and John and Dan, they're all influences. But I think, my biggest influence as a coach was when I was very lucky to, as a 20-year-old, new, fresh out of coaching, I got an opportunity to go to America and to work under a guy called Mike Daly. Mike Daly is a guy from Birr, from where I'm from, was a very good tennis player as he got older. When he was 18, 19, he got to a very high level nationally. Mike then went to America and worked as a coach over there. And, I knew him and he knew me. So got to go over to him when I was 20 to coach with him and under him in a place in Boston called the Weymouth Club. But Mike was a very, very big influence on me as a coach. His mentality, the culture he developed around what he did in his club. He was the head coach in the club. He was very much performance oriented. He had a huge amount of people who followed him and followed his ways as a coach in the whole in Massachusetts, not just in Boston. To the extent that he had players come from Harvard, like James Blake and his brother Tom. James Blake, who was top 3 in the world. James Blake and his brother Tom used to travel over to the Weymouth Club, to Mike's camps. He wasn't their coach as such, but he was the leader of the camps that they used to come to during the summer on a regular basis. He had such a good name. John Doran from Clontarf. John used to travel over to Mike's camps as well when he was in Harvard. So, there was a lot of players that he would have influenced over the years. He had national level junior players that he worked with himself. It just was a huge influence on me as a coach. And I was very, very lucky to work with Mike. He would have been very friendly with Tig Lamb as well over the years. Tig and himself would have been both. Tig is obviously from Tullamore himself. I think, as an experience in that first year that I went over, I got an opportunity to go to one of the players from the club in Boston that we were in. or got into the qualies of the US Open, a guy called Jeff Grant. And Jeff got through qualies and ended up drawing Gustavo Kuerten, Guga, in the first round of the main draw, and was on one of the show courts because Guga had won the French Open that year. So the owner of the club, very wealthy guy, brought all of the coaches from the club. And again, I was very lucky. I was lucky enough to be one of those. Brought us all down to the US Open. We stayed in the Grand Hyatt Hotel in New York. And we got to go to the US Coaches Conference, the USPTA Coaches Conference, which was held in that hotel. And also we got to go to the US Open to watch some of the practice. We actually got to watch Jeff's qualifying matches, and we got to go to his main draw first round match against Kuerten. So it was just a massive opportunity for two lads from Birr and County Offaly to be the back of a court watching a player that we knew from the club that Mike Daly from Birr was the head coach of, and the two of us standing at the back of the court beside a load of Brazilians and with the Irish flag, shouting, jumping up and down, shouting for an American guy who we were involved with. So it was just a very, very a fantastic opportunity, fantastic experience, and a brilliant time that I will never forget. And unfortunately, it has to be said as well, poor Mike passed away about 10 years ago now. And yeah, he's just always sadly missed. And he, I suppose, didn't get the recognition, or a lot of people don't know about him. A lot of tennis coaches in Ireland wouldn't know how well regarded he was. And I'm always trying to spread that word of how well regarded he was in America as a tennis coach, and how well known he was as a tennis coach in America. So just, Mike Daly, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah, I think it's great to have those stories, and I guess those people that have influenced you, and to remember them, and appreciate what they've done, and I guess the experiences you've had thanks to them. So yeah, that's really good. And just a final question, Garrett, before we finish up, and I'll let you go. What's your favorite thing about tennis?
I think my favorite thing about tennis, Adam, is the people you meet. I think we're very lucky. I'm in a very privileged position in my job, to be working for Tennis Ireland, to have met so many good people, so many tennis people over the years, to have had so many experiences and so many opportunities over the years. I've been very lucky to meet a huge amount of other tennis nuts. I think other people who just love the game so much, who think and talk about tennis as passionately as I do myself. And I think that's what I love about tennis the most, is just those relationships and those people I've met through the game.
Absolutely. Really good. Really good. Garrett, I think we will leave it there. I just want to appreciate your time, and a big thanks for coming on and talking through the plan. Obviously, I think that's great to hear from you, and to get you to talk through that, and also obviously sharing some of your tennis stories and experiences. I appreciate the time, and all the best with the plan as it gets started and gets going.
Absolutely, Adam. Thanks a million for having me, and thanks for everything you're doing on behalf of Tennis Ireland. Thanks for everything you're doing for tennis in Ireland, keeping everyone up to date, and just all of the podcasts. They're all very, very interesting. Different. You're getting a big cross section of the Irish tennis playing and coaching and enthusiastic community. So thanks a million for what you're doing for Irish tennis. I think everyone appreciates it. Anyone I speak to really appreciates it. So thanks a million. Thanks
once again to Garrett for coming on, for sharing all those details, and giving us all that insight on the plan. I really appreciate that. And as Garrett mentioned, do feel free to get in touch with him or anyone else. His email address is garrett.barry@tennisireland.ie, and I'll leave that in the description below. Thanks for listening to this episode of the podcast. I hope you found it interesting and informative. Until next time, I've been Adam, and goodbye.